Life's been described in a lot of different ways, and maybe even as a game. How about you? Do you like to play games? I enjoy it. One of the things I enjoy about some of our mission trips is the spades tournament that sometimes takes place at night. I'm not always in it, but I've been in it a few times. And there are some really good rules that come along with at least how we play spades on our Edmond Church of Christ mission trips. One of the rules is redeal. It means in a game of spades, if you were given 7 of one suit, you could call a redeal because you have so many in one suit. Or if you didn't have any spades, which are trumps in the game, you can call a redeal. Sometimes in life, we're just dealt a bad hand, and it'd be nice to be able to call redeal. Some of the bad hands in life are not too many of one suit or none of another. It is when we're misunderstood and maybe even mistreated. Today we've been thinking about Joseph and what life is like when we are misunderstood and mistreated. Those are two characteristics that definitely followed him throughout his life. He was misunderstood by his brothers, by his family. He was misunderstood by Potiphar. He was misunderstood in prison, and again by his family. One of the characteristics that followed Joseph through life was being mistreated and misunderstood. Because when his brothers and others misunderstood him, they mistreated him. They didn't treat him the way that he deserved or should have been. And nothing seems to hurt quite so badly than when those who should be the ones caring for us and looking out for us and understanding us are the very ones that are mistreating us. So when you're misunderstood or mistreated and you just want to call a redeal, how do you respond? Redeal is not an option for us, but there are options. Many of them are negative ones. Sometimes when we're mistreated, we want to get revenge and pay back others for what they've done for us. Or maybe we just swallow it all and become bitter inside because of what life has thrown our way. Or maybe we just get depressed and down and go into a shell and just shut down. Those are not characteristics of godly people who walk through this world with God's plan and purpose for their life. Instead, we need to have a response that chooses to see God working. That's what Joseph did. I'm not saying he was happy to be misunderstood and mistreated, but he never lost sight of God and how God would put him in a place and open doors for him to be able to walk through that place into where God would have him to go. And so when we're mistreated and misunderstood, we need to choose to see God at work in our lives because God never stops working, which means we look for God, come alongside him, and the next step of our journey is always to do the right thing next. Even when we're mistreated, we need to see God, and in reflection of God in our lives, we need to treat others the way God would have us, and to treat the circumstances and the situations in which we find ourselves, how God would want us to handle those. So look for God. So bottom line is, when you're misunderstood, mistreated, look for God and look for his purpose and never lose sight of it. And when other people see us doing this, they won't get it. They won't understand. Even at the end of Joseph's story, near the end of his life, his father has passed away, and his brothers come to him once again, and they just don't get it. And so they come to him and say, hey, our father would want you to act this way, and so here's what our father told you to tell us. And once again, Joseph looks at him, and in Genesis chapter 50, verse 20, he says, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good and to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Let's look beyond what others intend. See God and how he intends to take the situations and the circumstances we find ourselves in and take those and use them for his purpose. And that purpose, ultimately, it's the saving of many lives. I hope you'll enjoy looking again by yourself or with those around you and think about how Joseph reflected God in his life. You might even want to look up our little discussion guide that goes alongside with this and maybe spend time with those around you or by yourself thinking through these thoughts of how God works in our lives.